Minister, the National Development Plan set out approximately €116 billion to be invested in capital projects over the next 10 years from 2018 up to 2027. According to the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, if the trend of your government in relation to overruns of major capital projects, of government flagship capital projects, continue, then it will reduce the funding available to other capital projects by up to €2 billion per year. We can already see the impact that is happening in relation to the National Broadband Plan, the Children's Hospital. So the question is, what capital projects, if any, have been identified by your department in relation to delay or deferral on the back of the enormous overruns that we're currently seeing, and the fact that the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council are identifying, if this trend continues, that it will squeeze capital projects by €2 billion per annum?
Minister. I propose to take questions number 2 and question number 4 from, I think, Deputy Smith together. As I previously indicated, I intend to provide the capital required to fund, for example, the additional cost rising from the National Broadband Plan from future revenues. This will be done and has been done in the context of updating the overall capital ceiling set out in Project Ireland 2040. This means that the decision to approve the appointment of the preferred bidder will have no repercussions for other planned projects within the NDP. Additional costs in respect of the National Children's Hospital have been met this year by reallocating savings met in other sectors within the overall national capital envelope. The Deputy went on to refer to the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council. They have done some analysis on the the impact of cost overruns in their latest fiscal assessment report, drawing on domestic and international experience. I think it's really important to note that we have not experienced cost overruns of €17 billion, nor is any such scale of overrun in prospect. What IFAC have done is a technical projection which, if the very high cost overruns that we did experience on the National Children's Hospital were to be experienced on all major projects. As IFAC goes on to point out, Ireland is not alone in facing challenges in managing cost on major projects. This is why Project Ireland 2040 looks to reform how public investment is planned and delivered. It sets out a strategic vision for public capital investment. It signals a shift to greater integration of regional investment plans with local planning, and has in place a number of different bodies, including the Construction Sector Group, a Delivery Board, an Investment Projects and Programmes Officer to oversee the delivery of the plan.
The approach by government is extremely worrying. The Irish Fiscal Advisory Council have shown that major capital projects under your watch, and I mentioned 2 of them, are running at over 100% to 300% overruns. We know in terms of the National Broadband Plan that we're talking about an overrun of 500% for infrastructure that won't even be held by the public at the end of the day. That's an extra €2.5 billion of an overrun in this project alone that was not initially budgeted for. Similarly, when we look at the National Children's Hospital, the overrun is at the point of close to 100%, double the original cost. That overrun is nearly €1 billion, and we know we won't know the final cost of that project until later in the year. So this is funding that could be used in terms of fixing our housing crisis, could be used in terms of building primary care centres, could be used in terms of development of schools or flood defences in our areas. But the government seem to be absolutely asleep at the wheel when it comes to managing the public finances in relation to large projects like this. So can I ask you, what plans does your department have for controlling cost overruns in the future for major scale projects?
Deputy Breach-Smith.
The same question, Minister. I particularly want to focus in the implications of the overrun on the Children's Hospital on other capital projects within the Health Service. In May of this year, the then acting Director General of the Department of Health said that the growing concerns about the capital funding position of the organisation may have an emerging impact on the Children's Hospital and its overall capital programme. I'm concerned particularly about the delivery of a primary health care centre that's been promised since 2014 for the Drimna area. Now, this is an ageing population. We already have an Alzheimer's unit in temporary accommodation, and a service that is very poorly infrastructure for the area that's been there for decades. Since 2014, we've been promised a primary healthcare centre, and in a recent PQ to the HSE, I was told that it is important to recognise all capital development proposals must progress through a number of approval stages, and that there's an extension on the planning permission for the primary care centre in Drimnagh. For the end of November, the building was supposed to start. Nothing has started. There's an application to the Council to extend the planning permission. This is not good enough. The delivery of services to local populations is crucial.
Minister.
So Deputy Doherty asked me what are we doing to learn from what I said was unacceptable in relation to the National Children's Hospital. We're in the final stages of revising our public spending code to ensure that for projects of a huge scale, we are better able to manage their delivery than was the case in the National Children's Hospital. But you made reference to where we are with school projects. You made reference to where we are with primary care centres. You made reference to where we are with school housing units. So let me tell you where we are with them. In 2019, 90 new school buildings were delivered. If we look at where we are with primary care centres, there's 127 of them that are delivered, where there are further 11 of them due to be delivered this year, due to be open and looking after local communities and citizens. And beyond that, we have plans for further 70 primary care centres that will be delivered in local communities to enrich the healthcare they're giving. You refer to where we are with housing. By the end of this year, 6,500 more social homes will be delivered. So yes, there were things that went wrong with the National Children's Hospital that were unacceptable that we are addressing. But as we are doing that, let's also make recognition, and I'll make this case to the House, of the progress that has been made in the very areas that Deputy Doherty called out there. In relation to what Deputy Smith put to me there, in particular in relation to Drimnagh Primary Care Centre, I'm not aware of the status of that project, Deputy, but I do know that primary care centres and the facilities they offer make a big difference to local communities. I'll find out where it stands and I'll write back to you with an update on it, or the Minister for Health will.
Doherty.
You say that lessons have to be learned in relation to projects in the past, and you talk about revising the public spending code, and I'll come to that later on in another question. But these are two projects that I've outlined, projects that are being funded by taxpayers' money, projects that are being funded by fathers and mothers who are out working every hour they can get, paying their taxes, and expect the government to ensure that that revenue that is collected is spent appropriately. In these two projects, the overrun equate to €3.5 billion, €2.5 billion of an overrun in broadband and €1 billion in relation to the National Children's Hospital. And there is no doubt that if these projects were managed properly, that €3.5 billion could go into areas which are starved from investment in the areas that I have talked about to enhance the type of investment that we're already doing in these areas. Now, the question I have for you is this. You say you're talking about learning the lessons. So can you commit to us, because we know that the National Children's Hospital went from 790 million up to the price tag now of €1.73 billion. Can you commit to us, Minister, that this price tag will not reach the €2 billion mark, as many of us in this House fear, and as many of us have suggested that it will happen? So can you categorically give that commitment to me, and more importantly, to those people who pay their taxes and expect you, as Minister for Public Expenditure, to manage their revenue appropriately?
Deputy Smith.
I want to argue, Minister, that no matter how many times or how I ask this question, I do not get an answer, and I don't believe I will get one from you either, because I think what the government are attempting to do is to use their ideological commitment to competition, to competitive tendering, to the free market, right up until the next election, to disguise the fact that the way you do things and your ideological commitment to free market mechanisms has cost the state and the taxpayer way more and delivered less results. And specifically in the area of Drimnagh, I am asking that question. Why is it taken 6 years to deliver a primary health care centre which could take the pressure off the local hospitals like St James's, Tala, etc., if it were delivered? But I believe it will not be delivered because of the overrun and the overspend on the National Children's Hospital, broadband, etc. You claim to be a good housekeeper. You pride yourself on your fiscal prudence. But I would argue that you drive nurses out in the street rather than on strike, rather than deliver the services that are required. You have preferences to withhold the increase on the minimum
Thank you,
wage
Deputy.
in favour of other ideological commitments that you have. And in this specific case, you are depriving an entire community of Dublin 12 of the services that they were promised and that they deserve.
Minister.
Deputy Doherty made reference to the hard-working families, the hard-working mothers and fathers, the young children who are depending on schools being completed, on hospitals being available to them if they need them. They're the very same people we're looking to deliver this project for. We are looking to deliver a national children's hospital. We're looking to deliver a national broadband plan so that young children can have access to the best kind of surgery, so that our sickest children, if they need specialised care, that they have the opportunity to get it in Ireland. We're looking to deliver the national broadband plan so that children who are growing up in our towns and our villages all over rural Ireland have the same opportunities as children who are living in the heart of Dublin. That's why we are doing this project. And Deputy, you made reference to where things went wrong. I also want to name the projects which we have delivered on time and on budget, whether it's new roads that are underway in Longford, whether it's the primary care centres that I touched on, whether it's the investment in our water infrastructure, the very kind of investment you say you want, Deputy, but of course you are against the way for paying for it. If I deal with your question in relation to the cost of the National Children's Hospital, I'm not going to give any further indication in relation to what the final cost could be until I have the clear information available to me on that. I've always said there is potential for that cost to change. Given all that we have gone through in relation to this project, I will provide that house to you and to the Oireachtas when it's available to me. But you can be confident of the fact, Deputy, that we will be doing all we can to ensure that good value for the taxpayer is delivered, given the importance of this project and given all the lessons that we have learned in relation to it. Deputy Smith, I said I'd try to give you an answer for it. If you're not going to believe what I'm going to offer, I leave it to you to pursue it in other ways. You refer to ideology, you refer to free market. We're having a debate here about a public capital plan of over €110 billion, which is investing the people's money to try to deliver better public projects for them.